Hi everyone, thank you for coming to our first Speaking Fellow Kohn Lecture of the year. I'm Amy Arbogast, I'm the coordinator for the Speaking Fellows, and I'm going to introduce our Kohn Lecture coordinator for the year, Maddie Kim, a junior who's a microbiology major, and she is going to introduce our speakers, and she is really the moderator of all of these Kohn Lectures, so get used to seeing her up here for the year.
Yes.
Go.
Thank you, Amy. We'll have two speeches today given by three of our speaking fellows. Up first, we have Hannah Wang. She is a senior majoring in clinical and translational sciences and minoring in psychology. Please welcome Hannah.
Thank you all for coming. So today, my topic is going to be if emojis could give TED Talks. It's a little bit misleading, but it's kind of basically finding your authentic voice and being an effective communicator. So raise your hand if you've ever texted or replied to someone with an emoji instead of words. Yeah. Like imagine someone sends you like a really juicy story, like really juicy, and all you can say is this, or like this, or like this.
Oh.
You know? Sometimes emojis can say so much more than words. So let's kind of break this down a little bit more. What are emojis? Obviously you know what emojis are, but humans have used symbols ever since the start of humans. We've seen like hieroglyphics, we've seen cave drawings, facial expressions, and emojis are just a more modern form of symbolism that we use to convey ideas and emotions. So today I'm going to be talking through three main points. We're going to start by talking and finding out what maybe your emoji is, the importance of universal emotions, and how we can apply this to public speaking. Okay, let's start with your emoji. So let's think of your emoji as like a symbol that represents you as a person, but also maybe you specifically as a public speaker. Each of us has a face that naturally conveys something to our audience. Like sometimes I have an RBF, and that's not really something I can control. Now, I want you to all take your phones out. Look in your most recent emojis and think about that. Does that represent you as a speaker? Does it represent you as a person? Yeah? I feel like I see some yeses. So every person has their own emoji that we can see as their own public speaking. And let's maybe like visualize this. Sorry guys. Tell me more. Okay. Okay, so in this poll everywhere, please only put in emojis. But pick an emoji that you think encapsulates you as a public speaker. And we can see it all make kind of a collage together. Does the QR code work?
Yep.
Oh. You got a cowboy. Ooh. I like these.
Am I crying? Yeah. How'd you know? You clocked me.
I feel like I resonate with some
I'll
of
take
these.
nothing faces.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna call out some of you. I'm sorry. So who did the cowboy? Kato. So why did you do a cowboy?
I like to bring a sense of like yeehaw energy.
Yeah. Love that yeehaw energy. Who did the ice face? Andrew. Why'd you do that?
Well, I just love using that emoji as a reaction, but also it's just like, I grimace a lot, but that's just like a cooler one, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. So this is kind of like a fun activity. I mean, this is like what you see yourself as a public speaker. Sorry. This is difficult. Okay, cool. So that was a fun activity that I had planned. So this kind of brings into our topic of universal emotions and why being aware of your emoji is important. So if any of you have taken psych classes or unfortunately taken the MCAT, you'll know this guy. This is Paul Ekman, our buddy Paul, and he's this famous psychologist who studied facial expressions and emotions. And he discovered that there were 6 universal basic emotions that you can see through facial expression. So what does this mean? Basically, this dude went across all different languages, all different cultures, and if I made like a face here, someone across the world would understand that as the same emotion. And so I had to have a little fun little game also here. So there's actually 7 up here if you can count. He discovered 6 at first and added 1 more. But we'll kind of go through them as we go and start calling them out what you think the emotions are. So this red one, what do you think it is?
Intense.
Anger. Whoever said anger, yeah, right. Okay. The second one, this is hard. I don't even, I would never guess this one. Roblox? This one's contempt. Okay. This green one.
Disgust.
Yes. Okay, fire. Okay, yellow.
Happy. Oh, enjoy.
Yeah, enjoyment. You got that,
So
Amy?
close.
Okay, purple.
Shy.
Yeah.
Fear. Yeah.
This middle one.
Sadness.
And this last one.
Shock.
Yeah.
Surprise.
See how easy that was to identify. So, why is this important? Why do we have universal emotions? And how can we use them? So, basically, emotions that you show unconsciously or consciously make your audience feel something. And what's important about this is that even if you're not connecting to your audience through content, not connecting through like language barriers or maybe an accent, or you're just like not focused, you can connect through them using your facial expressions, body language, and emotion. And so if I want my audience to feel excited, maybe I'll like do some crazy gesture, raise my eyebrows. If I want them to feel sad, maybe I'll just like make a sad face. Something like that. Basically, your face, your body is your emoji. And if you're able to utilize your emoji, you can become a powerful public speaker, and it can be one of the most powerful tools. So, this kind of brings us to our next point, which is how do we apply these ideas to public speaking? So we talked about symbols and emojis, and specifically using our face as an emoji. And there are other ways of using symbols, like your body language is a symbol. We have gestures, like pointing at things, up, down, stuff like that. We also have images and colors. Let's think about what color is math? There's only one right answer.
Red.
Blue.
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 Oh my gosh, whoever said purple is wrong. It's red. At least for me it's red. We can argue about this later. What color is science?
Blue.
Green.
Blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
Green. Orange. It's green.
Well, basically, our society and our minds kind of correlate colors and images to different ideas. So in my head, at least math is red and science is green. And also in Star Wars, red and blue. What do they mean? Good and bad, I think. So we have all of these ways of using symbols. We have facial expressions, body language, colors, and images. But how do we really utilize them? And that's kind of using congruency, which is the idea of like unity and being like the same. And so this brings us back to our buddy Paul. So Paul, after he studied and discovered those universal emotions, he also looked at patients who were trying to express emotions that was opposite of what they were feeling. So he had these patients that were depressed and later committed suicide. However, they were trying to express happy emotions. And what his research discovered was that there are microfacial expressions. And these little expressions revealed like feelings of negativeness that the patient was trying to hide. So think about times you've had conversations with your friend and afterwards you're like, wow, they don't seem themselves. They seem like a little down. And that's when you're noticing their microfacial expressions. And so even if they're not trying to show that they're feeling down or something, sometimes it gets revealed. And so this was a large turning point in communication in general, because even if you're not trying to convey something, your audience can sense something sometimes. And so being aware of how you're feeling in the moment and what you're portraying to other people can have a very impactful impact on you as an effective public speaker. However, being an effective public speaker doesn't always mean you have to be like the cliche, outgoing, funny person. To be an effective public speaker, at least in my mind, is being able to utilize your emotions. So I'm going to use In and Out as an example. Crazy that this was over a decade ago. But take this movie. Riley, who's the main character, has to learn how to balance all of her emotions. And at first she uses joy, which is the happiness one, to try and like take over everything. And in the end, she realizes that that's not possible. You need to have all of your emotions there, and that's what's really making you whole. And I think effective public speaking is the same way. You can't just utilize your more outgoing aspects of yourself. You can use what's not there too. You can use fears, like your anger and whatnot. And being able to use these emotions can really make you connect with your audience. We often think that public speakers have to be like the cliche things, of course. Like the cliche emojis, of course. But we can be other emojis too. There are more unique ones than this, but there's thousands. And real connection to your audience is really about embracing all of your emotion and everything. And connecting with your audience requires authenticity, and it requires you understanding what you're feeling in the moment and using that. So I want you to go back to what you put up as your emoji for our activity, like the cowboy thing, whatever, the eyeballs, and think about, does that really represent you authentically? What other emotions, what other emojis really represent you? And so mastering your emojis and like mastering your face and body in public speaking isn't about faking it, but it's really about awareness. When your face, body, and words and content all become aligned together, that's what makes you an authentic and really an effective public speaker. And so, just as Dr. Ekman's, our buddy Paul's research showed, emotions are universal, and if we can use those to connect with other people, that is what can make us really powerful public speakers. And so instead of like faking it until you make it, try to believe it until you become it. So thank you for coming to my small lecture. Those of you who practice your emojis, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Hannah. And now we will have our second presentation by Andrew Zhang and Mika Surya. Andrew is a senior majoring in philosophy, and Mika is a junior majoring in economics. As they get ready, I just will tell you a little bit more about the Speaking Fellows. A little bit about us. We're a group of undergraduate peer speaking tutors who can offer different services in presentations and speech practice, conversation practice, as well as interview practice. We're located in DubSap, and you can see our hours as well as the ability to make an appointment online. We do also offer drop-ins, but appointments are preferred. And then we also do have some workshops where organizations and clubs can request those. With that being said, we'll hand it over to Andrew and Mika.
How's everyone doing? Swell.
Sorry, give us a second. Thank you so much, Maddie, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for coming. Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome to our Kohn Lecture. I'm Andrew, I'm a speaking fellow, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Mika, and I'm also a speaking fellow.
So our Kohn Lecture topic will be Our title is Speech That Slays, Leveraging Slang in Public Speaking. It's essentially a case for opening our consciousness to slang and using it more in professional settings.
All right. So before we get started, I'd just like to preface with who we are. As mentioned, and as Maddie has mentioned as well, we are the Speaking Fellows. We're essentially individuals on campus who aim to help you develop your growth as a speaker. So we can help you with a range of things, such as speeches, interviews, presentations, networking practice. Also trained to help people cope with speech anxiety and maybe prepare visual aids. Now, what is your guys' favorite slang word? Can we have some answers from the audience?
Hey.
Or just raise your hand and call me.
I'm so bad.
Yes.
Hold on.
Glaze.
Glaze?
Glaze.
Mm. The glaze is
Performative.
great. Performative.
Does that count?
Yeah. Sort of, yeah, I'd say so.
No, 100%.
Okay.
Lit.
Lit.
Oh.
You're so fit.
Yeah, right? Good.
Any others?
Is iconic slang?
Yeah.
Yeah, like in certain contexts, I would say. So.
Would mogging be slang?
Yes. Oh, come on, yeah.
Sorry, what?
Mogging? Sorry.
Yeah.
We were teaching Amy that the other day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still don't know any of that.
Okay, so those are all really great answers. Mika, what's your favorite slang word?
I feel like it changes all the time, but right now it's definitely ate. Like, you ate, I ate. I just feel like it's very versatile and like supportive in a sense. What about you, Andrew?
I've been really liking chopped lately, just for like any situation, not even just people. I'll explain later, but yeah, chopped.
Chop.
Chopped is
Oh my
good.
god, onk. Wait, onk.
Yes.
Okay, take it back.
I call my sister that.
No, yeah, it transcends gender if you're.
Okay, so thanks you guys for your contributions. Alright, and next we have a little pop quiz. So, does anyone know what the Oxford Dictionary 2023 word of the year was?
Riz. Has to be brain rot. Riz.
Anyway.
I wrote a paper on this. Riz.
You wrote a
Riz?
paper.
Oh yeah, you did.
Wait,
So, where was that? Riz?
which one is it?
Our brain rot is. Any other guesses?
It's
Answers?
definitely.
It best not be.
Okay, so you want to do the grand reveal?
Yes.
Alright, it was Riz. Good job. So, in fact, after more than 32,000 votes and a team of language experts, the word of the year was determined to be Riz in 2023. A little hard to see, but on the bottom right are graphs about the usage of Riz. So that one on the left is like the year divided by year. So in 2023, the use of Riz just skyrocketed. And that's just the month-by-month breakdown. So there's a peak in June for some reason. Little fun fact, brain rot was the 2024 word of the year.
Yeah.
So
Hannah was technically correct in some sense.
well, yeah, 2024.
It's
Close.
just a year
Partial credit.
ahead.
Yeah. But that kind of goes to show kind of the importance of slang in our everyday lives and how it's kind of permeated everyday society.
100%. Well, before we continue even further this slang rabbit hole, I'd like to kind of just take a step back and really think about what slang even means. Dictionary-wise, slang is very informal words and expressions that are more common in spoken language, especially used by a particular group of people, for example, children, criminals, soldiers, and etc. So an instance of slang in a sentence would be like, bussin' is slang for delicious. Like, oh, that Dougie meal was bussin'. No one's
Be for real.
But personally, I think this is a very unfair definition because it's too literal, and B, I feel like it discounts the role of slang in our day-to-day life and society as well.
Yeah, so in my own words, I said it's giving outdated. So how about, a new definition that's more hip and young? So this is from an article a professor sent me. They say slang is non-technical language that often seems novel to the user and or listener, and that challenges a social or linguistic norm. It can also play a performative role in defining personal or group identity. I like this definition a lot more than the previous one because first it doesn't list like soldiers, criminals, children as like the core demographics that use them. I feel like that's very limiting. The slang is like everywhere in society and is for all people. And I think it also has a more like positive connotation in this definition because it's just saying that it challenges some norms and it can also be performing or defining personal or group identity, which I think is just a more open definition for the use of slang rather than kind of pigeonholing it into a certain meaning.
Yeah, 100%. So we recognize that slang as a word is multifaceted. It's not necessarily used by criminals, soldiers, or even like those negative stereotypes that back then may have been kind of the standard perception when it comes to the usage of slang. And that is why our central argument today is that we should really destigmatize slang usage, especially in formal and professional settings.
All right, thank you, Mika, for the thesis. So just to set the foundation for the current problem, and its relevance, of course, to our lives. So there are current stigmas, I would say, against slang, and especially professional and formal settings. And there's sort of an attempt to homogenize how we speak. Basically, just saying no to slang, try to attempts to make everyone say, the same vernacular and all of that. I made a little mock-up on the right. So, for example, I would like. Miko's my boss. I'd say, "Wow, boss, your fit is fire today."
Thanks, you're fired.
Oh, that's not. Okay. So essentially like that. Obviously a little more subtle cases of that, but just saying slang maybe to your professional older boss in the workforce could be seen very negatively, but I don't think that should be the case. This sort of stigma against slang is rooted in using kind of differences in characteristics between in-groups and out-groups to use them as an excuse to exclude said groups. Just because slang does have a history of coming from more minority populations or marginalized communities, and because of that, people start picking up on using slang against those communities as saying, oh, they're so different, we don't want to be associated with that, or stop using that if you want to join us, essentially. And a really relevant topic that's also a lot deeper is a connection to AAVE, which is African American Vernacular English, which has always been written off historically as just slang and therefore informal and doesn't really have a place in professional settings. However, now it's very strongly recognized, and deservedly so, that AAVE is its own dialect. So essentially, a lot of people were using slang as a term to discredit AAVE too, even though that's not the case, or should not be the case. Transition. Okay, so sort of this positive argument for slang is that first of all, it's a declaration of our core identities. I think everyone can relate to, using their own slang terms based on, the communities they're part of, their past experiences. For example, if you're a gamer, what POG means. POG means oh, that's really good. But if, it goes to my next point, it's a way to strengthen connection, because if people are saying POG in a proficient way, that's sort of signaling, hey, I'm part of this community, or I'm at least knowledgeable about this sort of language that's associated with the community, and therefore really strengthens connection within people. And last of all, slang is human. Everyone is human. Everyone has their own slang, whether we know it or not. And it's sort of just this marker of your unique experiences and identities. I think it's really important to not suppress that.
Yeah, I love Andrew's point and last slide about having slang be a tool, A, for social signaling, but also to build connections among people, whether that's in the workplace or really anywhere. And I genuinely believe that both individuals and brands can totally build affinity using language, and obviously language encompasses slang as well. And really, slang isn't always what you think. It's not this recent or modern idea. It's always been present throughout history. The word okay wasn't necessarily formal or commonly used. It was actually slang. It was an abbreviation for something way longer until people started shortening it and saying okay instead, and then the increase in usage of okay turned it into a quote-unquote normal word, or even the fridge word. That derived from refrigerator. That's technically slang, but now it's become a very normal day-to-day word that you kind of use. I know anyone who uses refrigerator instead of fridge and spends that time saying that word. Or even words like Googling or Venmo. I feel like a lot of the times people now use Googling in place of searching. And for the longest time, that word Googling didn't exist until a major player like Google kind of climbed and became a big name brand in the industry. Or even the word TV, that derived from television. So that really goes to say that these words are only normalized because over time people have kind of pushed for the increased of its usage. And circling back to Andrew's point of slang being used to strengthen connections, I feel like it's definitely not just theory. Like, it's definitely relevant in real life, and we see it as something super evident in today's political landscape. Leveraging slang in itself is a form of identity politics, appealing to a group, desiring to have your policies appeal to certain people, namely real people using real language. For example, like Zoran Mamdani's, the current New York City mayoral candidate, have leveraged a lot of slang during his campaign because he wants to appeal to the masses and especially the youth and kind of Gen Z. That's kind of like the central theme of his campaign. He actually coined this term called halalflation, which is a portmanteau of two words being halal and inflation. As part of his campaign, he actually conducted like a research, doing outreach to halal carts and asking why their prices have risen from like $8 to $10. And then he coined this term halalflation to describe the issue of the city's rising food costs. So Mamdani is a good example of, I guess, leveraging slang to really make sure that his policies and his campaign resonate to a larger group of people and kind of being relatable in a sense to appeal to a larger audience. And even Hillary Clinton back in 2016 when she was running for president was saying like, Pokemon go to the polls, or was like, I don't know who made Pokemon go, but I'm trying to figure out how to Pokemon go to the polls or something like that. So there's definitely been a persistent trend of key figures leveraging slang in their speech.
Okay, so we're gonna engage with a potential counter-argument. So, Mika, low-key slang's not busting for non-signals. If you're not tapping, you're cooked. Whole comments just be giving NPC noises for real. Right, next slide, please. Okay, so exactly. So here's a translation of what I just said. So what I basically said meant, like, honestly, slang is counterproductive for people who aren't familiar with it. If you don't know the terms, you'll be completely lost, and conversations end up sounding meaningless and confusing, as I'm sure some of you saw my last statement as. So, Mika, what's your response?
Well, first, I think it's totally understandable if someone's kind of hesitant to incorporate slang into their daily life. I feel like due to the difference in perhaps age or seniority, there is a difference in like the way you consume media, and thus that affects how well or how unwell you understand slang. But I do also think that the issue really centers around like each of our willingness to learn when it comes to just like the understanding of words. Because for example, if you watch a TED Talk and they're using fancy technical jargon, there is less harsh judgment when it comes to learning said jargon as opposed to learning slang. And I do also believe that letting younger people express themselves with less constraints, letting them perhaps use slang in the workplace or professional settings can yield much better ideas.
Okay, so we're going to end off with a sort of call to action. What should you, as an individual in our audience, do in response to what we just presented? So first and foremost, I'd say just be open-minded to slang. A lot of people still have this certain stigma and initial impulse that slang is only meant for informal situations and is relegated to the communities they come from. But I think it's always good to just keep an open mind, and even to Mika's last point, look up and look into what certain slang words mean. And also, you can also just like teach your grandpa what this is. Like, it's always good to be spreading definitions of words in general, and I would say slang is no different.
Yeah, 100%. Well, if you would like to know how to use slang effectively in perhaps speech and how to kind of leverage that in classes and at your job, come to the Speaking Fellows. Go scan the barcode, schedule a session. We're available Monday through Fridays and Sundays. Or if you're too lazy to book a session, then feel free to drop in. We always have fellows at the WSAP, which is right at the start of the tunnels.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Andrew and Mika. If I could welcome Hannah back up here for a little Q&A. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I wanted to ask why y'all chose your topics.
I'm very passionate about slang. Amy knows this very well.
Yes.
Maybe to a fault, but like I feel like a lot of professors of mine also know. I just think slang is a valid form of communication. Like, there's this video of, I don't know what he is, but he's a white man that like can speak Mandarin really well, and he posts videos of like people in restaurants being surprised by that. But he also did a lecture at a high school about speech, and he did part of the whole speech, around like 5 minutes, all in like Gen Alpha slang. And at first it was sort of this gag, and it's like all the high schoolers were laughing along. But eventually, like 30 seconds to a minute in, they started like genuinely listening, because they were understanding everything he was saying, even if like a lot of people outside their demographic weren't. So I just think people in general should be more open to slang, and it's just something that's not the status quo.
My question's for all three of you, actually. I think every generation kind of invents their own language or evolves language in different ways. That's just sort of a human thing. But it seems like this, I would include millennials and Gen Z in this, because we were the ones that first started using memes and emojis, but I think your generation does a lot more meaning behind them, whereas for us they were kind of like an accessory to tag on. You guys have full conversations in them. And I see a real connection between the emojis and the slang in terms of manipulating language for your own play in really fun ways. And so I guess I want to ask, what factors do you think play into your generation having so much freedom and play with language in ways that older generations have had, but in much more limited ways? Like, why so much coming from your generation?
That's a really good question. I feel like with the rise of social media and the like how easy it is to connect with one another, like these subgroups and like sub-communities like form more rapidly than ever. And so I think naturally as humans, when you have your own community and when you have your own group forming, you know, you have your own way of communication that naturally is attached to that. So I think that for us, because younger people, obviously it's proportional to kind of like the increase in the rate of technological spread, they like access these like online communities so much more, and then naturally they develop their own way of communication amongst their like online peers.
I guess that most of their communication is taking place in these online environments.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's definitely a difference.
Yeah, and if I may add, like trends spread so quickly too, and I think that now even younger people like have access to them, so they're conditioned from childhood to be used to like using these slangs and stuff. Because even when I was 5 or something, I don't think I was online, but 5-year-olds now, they're all iPad kids and they have access to these platforms, and they do get that exposure so much quicker and so much early on in their lives compared to even us. That's how quickly this has like gone on.
I definitely agree, and kind of, and like also relate to emojis and like Hannah's whole presentation. I think like slang or like even memes at this point, are like a form of like non-verbal communication, or like there are a lot of memes that are not in English or like not in someone's native language that they can still understand somewhat and laugh at. So I think it's also because we're just in an increasingly diverse world where memes have become a valid mode of communication.
I was gonna say, like, sometimes I feel like our generations are feeling like the most disconnected we've ever been, but at the same time we are feeling super connected through like technology and whatnot, and maybe we're like grasping these trends and whatnot, and we're feeling like we can fit in to these little groups with slang, with clicks, with emojis, and that's kind of like defining them more. Like, I don't know if you guys know like TikTok Group 7. Yeah, like that's a brand new thing that just came up, and like you feel like you're in an in-group, and if you're not in Group 7, you feel like you're out of it.
Yes.
And it's kind of like all these little trends are just reinforcing like the in-group and out-group, and it's just like forever spiraling.
It's like a double-edged sword somehow.
It is.
Yeah.
How do you decide that like a professor is someone that you can trust with your interest in slang and that's not going to judge you, or maybe decide that you're not as smart because slang is something that you use more frequently?
I mean, honestly, like, there's no way you're gonna know. Sure, it can help to like build rapport with them and like get to know them, and like they see that you're a smart student or like an active student, but it's kind of like people with accents too who can code switch. Like, there's a choice to say it, but also like you won't know people's reactions. But I think it also does something meaningful if you do share it, and I think it's more so up to you than whoever's outside in the audience.
Yeah, I agree. And at the end of the day, I feel like your merit and like your performance in that class should be like why that professor judges you, and if they are gonna overlook your merit or performance just because you use slang, then that's a them problem, I think.
But I do think you need to think about like audience, like and
Yeah,
who the intended
100%.
audience of your assignment is. Because it'd be like if I did a presentation in a French class in German, like that's a problem. You know, it's not the language meant to reach that audience. But that also I think gives you ground to make a case for using slang if your class is your audience, that's a language that they understand. You know, there's places like
Yeah, I think it's analogous to like acronyms or like technical jargon. You just need to know if your audience will actually know what you're talking about, and I think slang is no different.
I have a question. For Hannah, when your sort of takeaway was like how you want to find your emoji or your real authentic self, is the argument then that putting on a mask or finding an emoji that you'd like to be is less authentic and makes you like a worse speaker? Or are both methods valid?
I think, okay, sorry. I think, like, in a sort of sense, yes, because when you're putting on, like, a fake face, a lot of the time people can see right through it, especially people that know you very well. And oftentimes you feel the most comfortable doing the things that feel natural to you. And if you want to become, like, the most authentic and effective speaker, you should try to do what's comfortable for you, and then also, like, maybe reach out to maybe areas that aren't as comfortable, but, like, still be true to yourself.
It was for you, so.
Y'all can answer.
What was the question again?
About like finding the emoji that's your most authentic self, is that valid, or can you choose an emoji or a feeling that's like not really you but what you want to be? Is that still a good speaker?
I'm actually not sure. I think it was like the fake it till you make it part. I somewhat believe in that, or like I have this like kind of life philosophy that like what you want to be is also who you are, even if you're not there yet. So I think at least you have the desire to do it, then it's good. But if it's like for like instrumental value, it's just like, oh, like I want to please this audience specifically, or like this demographic. I want to like appease myself or make myself digestible to them. I think people can see right through that. Well, if it's like, oh, it's like you're genuinely want, then I think people will also pick up on that.
You should put that on a pillow. Like that's so.
Thank you everyone for coming to our Kohn lecture.
The record one.